Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Paleo Cooking Live. I am so excited to be back for season two. I took a couple weeks off to prep some things and get you ready for the next season. And so now I'm just going to show you some shorter recipes, things that take a little less time, and hopefully we can keep these videos a little shorter and keep you engaged. I appreciate all of the information and feedback that I got from everyone for the last so many months, and thanks for following me. So let's get started. Today, as I said, we're going to do some clam chowder. So I'm starting with some bacon. I already cooked the bacon and I left the fat rendered in the pan. So I'm just going to turn this on and get it hot. And to this, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of ghee. Again, this is going to be totally dairy free. You could leave the bacon out if you didn't want the meat and you wanted it to just be pescatarian. So I'm going to go ahead and add the ghee now. Again, ghee is the only dairy that we eat when we're paleo or whole 30 because the fat solids have been removed from the dairy and it's just that yummy buttery oil. Trying to see who might be with us today. So there's some brown bits in the bottom of this from the bacon as well. And we're going to get those all scraped up and add them into our delicious clam chowder. So what's everybody been doing for the past couple weeks? I've been getting ready for my Whole30 group. We're on day 3, which has been really exciting. I've got some new people that have not done Whole30 yet, and a couple people who were continuing from August because they're feeling pretty good and they want to continue with those wonderful benefits. So this is getting nice and hot. And to this, I'm going to add 2 cups of diced onion. I've already diced it up. I like the pieces to be kind of small, so when we eat the soup, it's not too chunky. You go ahead and add those in, and those will start to saute. And it's smelling so good already. And those onions are going to render a nice sweetness and give us a nice savoriness in this clam chowder. Now, what am I using for dairy? I love coconut milk. I think that it performs pretty similarly to the way a regular dairy or heavy cream would perform in a recipe like this. It does have a little bit of sweetness, and we're going to offset that with some nice herbs and, of course, the brininess of the clams. And yes, I always open the can upside down because it settles to the bottom. This way, when I flip it over, I can stir it in, and I have this handy whisk that works really well in this size can. So this is starting to sizzle. And we don't want these to caramelize. We just want them to sweat a little bit because they'll cook the rest of the way when we do the broth. And this is going to be a delicious dinner tonight. And I see one big piece that I don't like, so he's going away. And all those yummy brown bits are coming up off the bottom now, and they're giving the onions a nice golden color. So what else is going on? I wanted to show you, now that I'm an affiliate with Thrive Market, there are so many delicious options, and you can actually go on Thrive Market and see things by Whole30 or by Paleo. You choose the lifestyle that you use for eating, and they curate a list of ingredients and things that you can buy. And right now, if you join, you get 20% off your first order if you use my link. And I've updated all the links on my website. But this is what's really exciting. I just got this. These are all new Whole30 sauces and dressings. They just came out. It's the first Whole30 project that's private labeled. And this was a little present for me. It felt like Christmas when it came. So all of these flavors, except for the secret sauce, are available now on Thrive Market. So if you go on my link and you want to give these a try, I recommend them. Of course, you can see I haven't opened them yet, but I'm sure they're all very tasty and I can't wait. So those are really starting to sizzle. And while that's continuing to cook, I wanted to talk to you about Hannah sweet potatoes. Now, this is also what's considered a nightshade-free recipe. Nightshades are a specific kind of vegetable or herb that are difficult for some people to digest. So I like to try and incorporate some autoimmune protocol, which is what we call that specific diet with no nightshades, into some of my cooking. I actually started Whole30 doing only autoimmune protocol, and it really did help with some of the health issues that I was having when I cleaned up my diet. So in order to keep this as a traditional clam chowder, instead of using white potatoes or Yukon potato, which are considered a nightshade, I'm using a Hannah white sweet potato. These are really delicious. They're a little firmer, waxier texture than a regular orange sweet potato. They're brown on the outside, so you can just test them a little bit to see if they're the white ones on the inside. The other thing you can use are the purple Japanese potatoes that are sweet potatoes, and these don't have that sweet kind of mushy flavor. I call it mushy because they are a little waxier. This is what they look like when they're peeled. I just went ahead and peeled a half of one. And I'm going to show you how I slice these real quick while this is cooking. So I always cut anything that I'm going to chop in half or give it a nice flat surface so it doesn't roll around on the cutting board. And then I'm just going to go through this vertically and make about not quite a ½ inch slices all the way across. And of course, if you have a sharp knife, it's going to do all the work for you. And then I kind of split these in half, these little stacks, and I lay them on their side. Again, nice, flat, stable surface. And I'm going to go through it again. And if you've ever watched me dice vegetables before, you know what I do. It's always cross and then cross and then cross again. And that's how you get a dice. So I've already done vertical. Now I'm doing vertical again. And then I'm turning it. And this is where we get these nice little cubes that are going to be so delicious in this soup. And not all of them are going to be exactly the same size, but the goal is to try and get them as close to the same size as possible so they cook evenly. And that's how those look. Now, since this onion's getting a good start, I'm going to go ahead and add a ½ cup of diced celery. And I diced the celery and, of course, the onions and the potatoes to all be about the same size. So not only do they cook evenly, but when you eat it, they all have the same texture. So the celery is going in, ½ cup. And you know, what we call the Holy Trinity in the kitchen is a mirepoix, or a combination of onion, carrot, celery. I'm not putting carrot in this because I don't want the orange color. I want to keep it primarily white and buttery looking. But pretty much anytime you want a very aromatic recipe and you want those flavors in your cooking, it's always going to be carrot, celery, and onion. And the way I like to think of it is the onion is 2 times the carrot and celery. So if I'm doing 1 cup of onion, I would do a ½ cup of celery and carrot. In this case, I did 2 cups of onion because I really want that pronounced caramely onion flavor with the celery. And then I did cheat a little bit just to kind of keep this moving. So I already have some potatoes done. And it's 4 cups of the white sweet potatoes. And I sort of par cooked them so this could finish a little more quickly while you're here live with me. And I'm going to go ahead and add those potatoes in now. Oh, I missed a couple. Don't want to miss anything. And I'm just continuing to stir that together. I'll show you how this looks now. Potatoes, onions, and celery all coming together, making a nice flavorful mixture. The next thing I'd like to add is a little bit of Old Bay seasoning and then also some red pepper flakes. Old Bay seasoning is just one of those traditional seafood flavors that works with everything. I'm just going to stir that right in and make sure that all these vegetables are well coated. My little induction burner works on a timer, so it thinks it knows better than me when to turn off. And I'm going to add some salt. I have some nice Maldon sea salt here. And I'm just going to put about a tablespoon and stir that in. I used to make all my stocks from scratch, but now there's such delicious stocks available. You can buy stock almost anywhere. So this is a seafood stock. It's delicious, and it just has fish stock and some vegetables. It's organic. And I'm going to do 2 cups of the fish stock. This is a 4-cup measure, so I'm just going to go up to 2 cups on this. Yes, all of my measuring cups are enormous because I used to bake for a living and work in a commercial kitchen. So it makes everything a little easier when you have big stuff to work with. And that's going in. And then I'm going to add 1 can of the coconut milk. Now to get this to thicken, I have a little bit of tapioca starch. Now, you know, maybe you haven't seen my trick before, but my trick for anything with tapioca starch is to make a slurry. Because if I was to just pour this into the hot liquid right now, it would just get lumpy and clump up. And I prefer tapioca starch over cornstarch because 1, corn is a grain, and we're staying away from grain. And also because it really does cook out nicer and becomes a nice smooth consistency. So I'm just putting enough of this seafood stock into this 3 tablespoons of tapioca starch and stirring this around so that it's nice and smooth. The other thing you can do is just sprinkle this over the vegetables before you add the liquid, but I find that this sort of comes together a little more smoothly. So that's all mixed in with the seafood stock. It's not even 2 ounces of seafood stock with that tapioca starch, and I'm going to pour that in. And when that hits the heat, it will immediately start to thicken. Now all we're doing is waiting for those potatoes to cook, and because I already gave those potatoes a head start, it's not going to take very long for them to come together. So while we're waiting on that, I'm going to get these potatoes out of the way because I will cook these for breakfast and make hash browns with some yummy sausage. And that's a perfectly compatible Whole30 breakfast. So I'm going to go ahead and chop up this bacon because this is a great garnish when we plate up our soup. And I'm using an uncured no sugar bacon because we don't want to eat all those chemicals that are used in commercially produced bacon. This one comes from my partners at Butcher Box. I get a beautiful box once a month of amazing grass-fed and finished pastured meats and poultry. Their pork chops are to die for. I just love them. And depending on when you sign up, you can get a pound of bacon for life. You can get a pound of ground beef for life. So every time you place an order, they add that in, which is a really nice little perk. I'm going to grab a ladle and we're going to plate up this soup because it smells amazing. But not before we add the clams. So here I have 3 cans of whole baby clams. These are wild picked, and they're just packed with water and a little citric acid, which is totally okay. And I have 3 cans in this container. I drained 2 of the 3 cans and kept the liquid from 1 of the cans. I'm just going to go ahead and add those in. And the reason I'm adding them at the end and almost forgot them is because I don't want to cook the clams. I want the potatoes to be done before I add the clams. The clams are pretty much cooked and we don't want them to have a strange rubbery texture. And this smells amazing. And again, it's simmering the whole time. I don't bring it to a boil. Just going to put it in this bowl. Look how nice and thick and rich and lots of yummy stuff. Is that delicious and nutritious? Just going to put a little bacon on top, just like that. And how about a little fresh parsley? Just running the knife through some of these fresh parsley leaves. Just going to sprinkle that on top. And that's all there is to it. It's done in 20 minutes. It's delicious. It tastes so good. And if you love clam chowder and things of the sea, and especially now that the weather's starting to cool off a little bit where you live, probably not here in Florida, we still love soup year round. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining me. I hope that you join me again next week. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.